All right, so this is the next video in the series of Sitecore Cognitive Services for setting up OlaChat. Now, this is my GitHub repository here on github.com/markstiles. And what we're going to do is jump into this OlaChat source. I'm going to download the zip, jump to my desktop and unzip it here. And then I'm going to cut this from here. And if you were watching the earlier videos, I'd already downloaded the Sitecore Cognitive Services. I'm going to jump into this folder, and under source here I'm going to create a folder called feature, and I'm going to paste this here, except I'm going to rename it OlaChat. And now I'm going to go into Visual Studio, right click, add new solution, feature. I'm going to add another solution folder called OlaChat, and then I'm going to add an existing project. Here. And now I have Ola set up. I'm going to run Nant again to make sure any template files are set up, and then I'm going to publish this. And now that that's set up, I'm going to come back here to Unicorn and refresh. Now I have another project I'm going to sync in. I can jump back into Content Editor. I'm going to run to the Launchpad and make sure the OlaChat button is showing up. Okay, now that I have Ola set up and I can see the Launchpad icon, what I need to do is set up the backend. So this is really just the UI using the Lewis service, but I need to actually go into Azure, create a service for it, and then attach it to Lewis. Lewis is kind of the authoring end. So if I jump into Portal Azure, create a resource, search for Lewis. This language understanding here, I click on create. What it'll do is it'll add this service to my Azure resources. So I've already got one. I'm going to jump to my dashboard. I'll show it to you. So here is the service, and if you want to go into your keys and actually copy one of them, bring it back to your local properties file, and you here under this, you can paste it in here, and now you have a copy of it locally. If you do a Nant and a resync, it'll actually push it into the content tree for you. You don't have to do that. You can just go and paste it into your content tree if you want. But now that you have that, you have one half of the kind of back end. This is the server that's actually going to be queried against. So whenever anyone's using it, they're going to be hitting here. Now, the place where the source code for Lewis is contained is in lewis.ai. So you go in, you create your applications, you build your language model, you test it, you train it, you publish it, and once it's published, it copies it to your Azure account. And then in your Azure account, you can query against it. But when you're in your Lewis account, what you're going to want to do is go up here to the top right to your account, go to settings, and then here, this authoring key is something you're going to need. There's a difference between authoring and querying. Querying is saying, here's some text, and tell me what this text is. Break it apart, tell me the intent. But when you're trying to write language to this service, so this service helps you manage your language and build your model, but you can also do it remotely. So if you wanted to build your own user interface in Sitecore entirely and just push all the data into Lewis, you could do that too. And you can do that with this authoring key. So you're going to copy this authoring key out. We're going to jump back into Sitecore, go to the content editor, under System, Modules, Sitecore Cognitive Services. You'll see now we have this OLA chat section here, and it has the settings dictionary underneath it. So if I come in here and I paste in my authoring key, and I can hit setup, what it's going to do, it's going to jump to this content tab, and it's going to take this JSON blob. This is all the training data, and it's going to push this into Lewis. This is the authoring part that I was talking about. And what it'll do is once it's pushed this data into Lewis, it'll train it, it'll publish it to my Azure account, and then it will query it and make sure that it is working. And it'll also retrieve the application ID and store it here. So you can have multiple applications in your single Lewis account that do different things, and it'll differentiate them by the application ID, which is completely different from your API key. So I'm going to go back to my Setup tab. I'm going to hit Setup. So this may take a minute. Like I said, it's uploading a large JSON blob, training it, publishing it, and then querying it. Okay, so that succeeded. There's one thing I need to test to make sure this works. You jump here to the top of the Cognitive tab, click on the OLA button. If you're getting a response and it's working, and it is. And if I open up API key, go to Microsoft, just go down to Lewis. What I want to do is paste in my production key here. This is my API key from Azure. This one is just temporary from the Lewis end to let you do authoring. But since we've already set up the system, we want to put in your production key here and save it, and you're all set.